guys, it's Patch. This is like a first look at a new sleeping bag that I've got. It's the Thermarest Hyperion 32 Fahrenheit, 0 degree Celsius sleeping bag. If you've seen my channel before, you know that I got a budget backpacking quilt from AliExpress, which I actually really berated for the price. But for this year, for this spring, summer, autumn, kind of hiking year, I've got a sleeping bag, and I might do another video on why I've chosen that over the quilt, but this is just to look at this sleeping bag specifically. So I'll just break it down into, I'll go through the specs, what you get when you buy it, price, etc. Then I'll go through kind of what I think pro-wise, why I think this is a good product, and then why I think it's a bad product, and then who I think I'd recommend this for. So I'll just dive straight in. So obviously you can see you get this kind of hanging bag. This is how you should store all down products, just so it lofts properly when you kind of use it over time. If you constantly keep them compressed up, then the loft just kind of degrades and doesn't loft the next time you unwrap it and try and use it. So you've got this hanging bag, which obviously has all the details on the side there. Get the actual bag out itself. And then you also get a compression bag, which I'll pack it up at the end and show you how small it can go. But its packability is pretty good. So going over the specs of this bag then, it comes in 3 sizes, small, regular and long. This is a regular one, so I'll give all the details for that. But if you go on Thermarest website, you can get all the other details for the small or the long versions. It's just a bit boring if I just read off loads of numbers. Okay, so the weight of this bag is obviously the most important thing if you're trying to go up ultra light. So it's 16 ounces, so a pound, pretty much dead on, 462 grams in proper metrics. So pretty lightweight for a sleeping bag. Obviously, most ultra light people go for a quilt over sleeping bags because you're just instantly saving weight by not having padding around the back. You're just saving all that material, not having a zip, etc. But this is done pretty well for considering it's a bag and it's got that weight. The regular fits a human who's 183 centimeters. I'm 186, but there's obviously a bit of leniency because I fit pretty much fine. So if you're a few centimeters over what you're looking at, I wouldn't worry too much. And the temperature ratings for this bag. So comfort-wise, I'll put the degrees up in Fahrenheit if you're that way inclined, but in Celsius, comfort-wise, we've got 5 degrees Celsius. Its limit is 0 degrees, so it's actually kind of marketed towards its limit. So it's 32 Fahrenheit, 0 degrees Celsius bag. That's its limit, and then minus 15 Celsius if you're in a really bad spot for its extreme limit. I'll go on to kind of temperature ratings and how accurate I think that is later, but yeah, so it's marketed. Its limit for use generally is 0 degrees Celsius. The filling for this is 900 fill power goose down, RDS certified and all that, and it is Nick Wax hydrophobic down as well. So it's meant to, or it's advertised to loft 60 times longer than non-treated down. So even if you get a bit wet, if your foot box gets a bit wet inside your tent or whatever, it shouldn't react as badly as non-treated down. Might not be still as good as synthetic insulation, but if you're weight inclined or looking at weight, then you want a down sleeping bag ideally. And then going on to the actual materials, so we've got on the outside the shell, 10 denier nylon ripstop, and this is DWR treated, so durable water repellency. So it does stand up a bit to getting wet on the outside. It kind of beats up a little bit. And then on the inside, the same material, but isn't DWR treated, so 10 denier nylon ripstop on the inside. The cost of this does vary for about, I'll give it in pounds, but it's about 320 to about 360 pounds. But you can get it quite a bit cheaper. It's quite often on sale, I'm not sure why. So I looked this morning, those are kind of the price ranges that I could find, but I got this for 285, so I knew I wanted it for a while, so I just waited until a good enough sale came up. So, The cost is the cost. I feel like it's relatively kind of arbitrary, because my £300 isn't the same as your £300. It's what it's worth to you. I can't really say yes, it's worth the money, because everyone's different. So that's a decision you're going to have to make. But yeah, those are the rough costs. It might be different in America or wherever you're watching, but 320 to 360. It is a box wall baffle design, as you'd expect. Basically, what that means is where the baffles are sewn in the middle here, there is actually a wall between each of the baffles, so it's not sewn directly through, which can create cold spots in the actual sleeping bag. So there is a wall in between, which higher quality products tend to have, which leads to it being generally warmer than if it was just sewn through baffles. And the zip then, so on the side we've got the zip. As you can see, it doesn't go all the way down to where maybe most sleeping bags you'll have experienced go down to about here. It kind of goes half the way down. Nice light zip, but works pretty much fine. No complaints with that. Obviously, it's an ultralight product, so it's not like a big chunky zip that is going to last or whatever. This may be like a common fault that may fail, but I haven't experienced anything so far. Get down. Get down. Get down. Get down. On the back of the sleeping bag here, we've got these two pad straps. I think Thermarest call them Synergy Link connectors or something. There's a name for anything, but basically just pad straps. If you've got any kind of pad, I think it's under 4 inches, I believe, maybe 3 inches, this will kind of connect to it. So I've got the Thermarest NeoAir X Lite. It's a really popular pad, and it connects to it, obviously, as you'd expect it being its own product, really well. But you can disconnect these. They've just got kind of little hammerhead connectors, and you can not use them if you choose to. Now, one of the most interesting things about this bag is that it uses zoned insulation. So basically what it says is that 70% of the insulation is on the sides and the top, as if you're lying down, of the sleeping bag, but then only 30% is kind of along the back. So it's obviously thought about the debate between quilts and sleeping bags. A lot of people say that sleeping bags are kind of pointless because you're lying on the back, so you're squishing all that down, and it's not being able to loft, it's not actually providing you any warmth. So basically Thermarest have kind of said, okay, we'll just put less insulation in the back, save all that weight, and put what we would have used maybe around the front and the sides, the bits that are actually going to be able to loft. So that's quite interesting how they've kind of designed that. And then just a few more of the features. So around the hood here, we've got kind of draft baffle type collar bit, and then down the side where the zip is, there's a tube of insulation, so it stops drafts kind of getting through where the zip is. If this wasn't here, then obviously air would just be able to get straight through the zip, and you kind of get a cold spot all down your left side. But that works pretty well. And then at the top here, you've got a kind of toggle, which you can tighten, obviously, to close up the face as much as you want, or as much as you can, type thing. And again, that works really well. Again, it's on the side, it's not right on your chin, so the string isn't annoying you flapping all about. And finally, there is a popper at the top of the zip here. Basically, once you've got the zip done up, it's not going to undo if you do this popper up. If you didn't have this, as you move around in the night, the zip could edge down, and by the time you wake up, the zip could not be done up anymore. So that keeps it done up throughout the night. So just if you look at the actual design of the bag, you can see it's quite wide at the top with the shoulders, and they've actually thought about it tapering down. So it gets significantly thinner towards the legs. So there is a definite taper there. I'm assuming to save weight and just make it kind of more comfortable where you don't need the excess material around your legs. They've thought about that. And then the foot box, it's all sewn up. So unlike a lot of quilts, it's completely sewn up, and it is kind of wider, so when you lie in it, you can see there's an area for your feet to go, so it doesn't just taper all the way down, and then there's no area for your feet to kind of be. I'll put up a picture from Thermarest website so you actually see that a bit more clearly than me just holding it up. Okay, so pros of this product then, I think it's really well designed. The bits I've gone through, the kind of insulation zoning, the baffle wall construction, how it's kind of tapered significantly towards the bottom, and there's a definite kind of foot box where your feet go at the end. This kind of draft collar tubing bit, I think there's actually a lot of thought that's gone into the design of this. As you'd expect with a company like Thermarest, I've obviously been doing this years. But the NeoAir X-Lite pad is one of the most popular pads out there. So yeah, the design I think is really good, and they've thought about it, and they've thought who they're actually marketing this towards. The build as well, you know, sometimes with ultralight products, if you're trying to be as light as possible, it sometimes feels a bit kind of, I don't know, some things feel a bit flimsy, like cook pots made out of titanium, you know, they're a bit flimsy, whatever. The build on this actually feels really good. Usually when you hold something, you like judge its weight and you're like, yeah, this is made really well. It's not really the case with ultralight products. It's difficult to get that feeling because you're trying to, you know, cut down on the weight. But, you know, actually using this product, like handling it, feels like it's absolute bomber, not going to break, as long as you obviously treat it well and look after it. So, good design and good build in my opinion, no complaints to be honest. And I actually think, which is one of the key areas, the final pro I'd like to mention is it's a good weight to comfort ratio. Like it's a pound, 16 ounces, 460 grams, and you can get down to kind of 0 degrees Celsius. I think that's pretty good for a sleeping bag, definitely. Obviously, might not be the best, might not work for you, but I think just general weight to comfort rating for a sleeping bag, it's difficult to argue with it, to be honest. So I think that's a really good point to make, comparing how much does it weigh to how much comfort I'm actually going to get out of it, what I'm using it for. Yeah, so I feel like you get all the perks you get of a sleeping bag. You get the comfort of having the hood, you know, full surround like insulation, no cold spots down the sides or anything like that. But you get the weight of most quilts, most kind of high-end quilts. I guess moving on to some of the cons, you know, I haven't used this extensively so far, but there's a couple of cons that like flag up to me that might become issues, or might be an issue for some people out there. So I'll give them a mention anyway. Like I said, it's worked well for me so far, but these might be things you want to consider. The temperature ratings that it's given, while I say it's got a good weight to comfort ratio, I think the temperature ratings are the absolute lowest I would go. So I've used this out at 0 degrees Celsius, and that definitely was the limit. Like I was getting cold, and I'm a pretty warm sleeper, so it's difficult for me to judge because I do sleep pretty warm. I feel like if you're going to be out in anything less than 5 degrees Celsius, you need some hand warmers or something else to keep you warm as well, like good set base layers. So I think the temperatures that it's given, if there's a chance you're going to be out any less than that, like the comfort rating, I would just err on the side of caution and maybe get a bag that's rated a bit colder. Thermarest do a Hyperion -6 degrees, 20 degrees Fahrenheit, -6 Celsius. So if you're going to be out in kind of less than the comfort rating of this bag, maybe consider looking at that one because it's a bit more expensive, going colder, etc., etc. So just something to consider. Just a quick sidebar for people who don't know how comfort ratings are kind of created, or how the temperature ratings are created. You do get a handy kind of guide on the inside of here actually, but there's 3 temperatures associated with sleeping bags, etc. And there is a kind of standardised way of doing it, like EN ratings. So comfort rating is the temperature that it kind of would suitably be used in and should be used in to provide comfort for the user. The limit is the lower limit that a user should be using the bag. So in this case, 0 degrees Celsius, I have used it at 0 degrees Celsius, and that is pretty much the limit. I definitely wouldn't want to go any colder than that. And then the extreme is what a user could survive in for a night. Obviously, you're not going to be sleeping very well at all, but you know, I always find that a bit weird because if you're in that kind of survival situation, you're going to be using whatever you get. You're not going to be checking your sleeping bag and thinking, oh, this isn't rated for this situation. So yeah, minus 15 degrees Celsius, I would definitely not be wanting to sleep out anywhere near that temperature in this. So yeah, comfort, limit, and extreme. Vision, no. Mentioned about the kind of tapered design. It's not really an issue for me, but some people do get a bit claustrophobic in sleeping bags, which is why some people prefer quilts. I feel like that would be an issue for claustrophobic people with this bag. It does hug your kind of thighs and calves quite tightly down towards your feet. So if you like to move about a bit, if you like fidget quite a lot, and you want a bit of extra room, this might not be the bag for you. It is quite tight. I'd just say, if you're looking at it, just go and try it out in a shop beforehand, or obviously you don't burn all your receipts before you've actually got in it once you bought it. Because yeah, it is on the narrower side because they're trying to save weight and make it kind of as sleek as possible. So if you do want extra room, just consider that if you're looking at this sleeping bag. It is relatively snug. Or size up, if you're a regular sized person. Maybe look at getting a long one, might give you a bit of extra room. All the measurements are on the Thermarest website. So they've got the width of the shoulders, kind of hips and like down, and you can see how wide you would want a sleeping bag. And then lastly, looking at these kind of straps, this is kind of what I was mentioning about ultralight kit. Things just seem a bit like flimsy, and that's the kind of vibe I'm getting from these straps. They're a bit elasticated. I feel like I lose these pretty easily. They've just got their little hammerhead kind of connectors on them. I do use them because they work well at keeping you from rolling off your sleeping pad, but they are just a bit faffy and annoying. I feel like there could be a way that these could be designed just maybe a bit better, or I know that they've gone for the whole you can use it or not use it by connecting it or not, but I feel like a little Fastex clip would give me a bit of a warmer, fuzzy feeling than just this little hammerhead connector, because I know that it's just not going to fall off. I'm not going to lose it. So yeah, I feel like they could be a little bit better, but I'm really picking at straws then. Okay, so lastly, I just want to go on to who I would maybe recommend this bag for. I think if you're weight focused, definitely, obviously, it's marketed wholly to people who are hiking fast, want to travel as light as possible, but also want the kind of ease of having a sleeping bag and not having the kind of faff of setting up your quilt and making sure there's no cold spots. Like, sleeping bags are just easier generally. They're more kind of not versatile, but you can just set it up, get in, and you're encased, and you don't have to worry about doing anything else. You don't have to strap it to your pad if you don't want to, unlike a kind of quilt. And yeah, so people who are weight focused but also just want the ease of knowing that it's all just set and good to go. And obviously people like with the temperature ratings I mentioned, if you're going to be hiking regularly below 5 degrees Celsius, I wouldn't get this pad personally, unless you're a really warm sleeper. Okay, so that's kind of as small as it reasonably goes, mug, kind of like 2 or 3 times the size of a mug. Pretty packable, like down, full power, 900, it's going to pack pretty well. So yeah, if you use these, I personally don't, these compression sacks, it does pack down pretty small. I personally just choose to stuff it straight into a pack liner, and then it kind of fills the gaps itself. Whereas here, you've got things that will need to now pack around this. But yeah, we're just packing it as is, pretty small. So yeah, that's pretty much all I've got to say about this quilt so far. We'll just pack it up into this compression sack so you can see how small it goes. But yeah, put anything down in the comments, any questions or anything like that. Have you got one of these? Do you like it? Has the claustrophobic issue been a problem for you? Is the temperature rating adequate for what you're doing? Just let me know down in the comments and I'll answer anything I can. Please like and subscribe, it's really appreciated, and wait out for the next video.